You know what? You can't always get what you want, especially when it comes to photography. Sometimes you just have to deal with what Mother Nature throws your way. Now, I've been shooting sunrises and sunsets for 7 years now, which is kind of crazy to think. And I would say about 30% of the times where I go out to shoot and the forecast looks amazing, I get there and it's cloudy, it's rainy, there's low visibility, whatever. And the conditions are just far from ideal. And so many times, especially in the beginning, I would want to pack up and go home. And I did, because I would think to myself, I'm not going to post these on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. It's not going to go anywhere. However, I believe every single photographer should learn how to shoot in bad conditions for one main reason, and that is because you need to make sure that you are able to work out and find ways to get good photos when the conditions aren't super ideal. So let's cut to me in the field a couple of mornings ago when I was out shooting and the conditions were definitely not in my favor. And then I'm gonna walk you through a handful of tips on how you can take better photos when the conditions are just not playing ball. Good morning and welcome to a nice cloudy sunrise here in Bali. Can't lie, I was going to be shooting a completely different video today. I'm currently just shooting with this little 24mm pancake lens, if that wants to focus. Maybe it's not a pancake lens, but maybe it's a small stack of pancakes. Either way, there should be a giant volcano right here. There is. It's just currently covered by some clouds, which is far from ideal. But we're gonna make the most of it because we drove about an hour and 40 minutes at 4 a.m. this morning to get to where we are. So I don't really want to put that in the bin. And obviously we also have to drive back. So that's at least gonna be another hour and 40 minutes. And I at least want to get something out of this morning, which I think is more than understandable. We've got Luca currently flying the drone as we speak. So if you can hear that zooming around, Luca doesn't apologize, put it like that. I'm actually a little bit confused as to what I'm going to be shooting today, purely because of the conditions. As you can see, it's incredibly cloudy, like I've already mentioned. That's the only thing on my mind at the moment. But I guess one really important factor, especially when you're just starting out with photography, is to shoot regardless of the conditions. Because if you can shoot really good photos in somewhat average or below average conditions, you're gonna be able to shoot pretty amazing photos in really good conditions as well. And it's really important that you do your absolute best to shoot in any conditions that come your way. And I guess that's what we're gonna be doing this morning, because maybe for the last few years, I haven't practiced this all that much. If I get to a location and the conditions are bad, I go home. Maybe that's not the best attitude to have. So we're going to walk around today. We're only going to be shooting with the prime lens, and let's see what we can pick up. Something Luca and I almost make a non-negotiable every time we go out to shoot is to get a point coffee. If you're ever in Indonesia, you can find these Indonesian wide, and the coffee is surprisingly very good. Coffee's on point. All right, back in the studio, we got blessed with a little bit of golden light that came through for about 5 minutes and then disappeared behind the clouds. So anyway, I want to run you through a handful of tips that I know are going to be helpful to you when you're out shooting in not ideal conditions. Let's keep it nice. All right, first up is lean into the conditions. Now, this might be a little bit more applicable to photo editing instead of when you're actually trying to take the photos. But I find time and time again, especially when I was a beginner, and I see this all the time, especially on Instagram, people try and make the conditions something that they're not. Whether that's through a bodgy sky replacement, whether that's through trying to make the sky blue by dropping the temperature where the clouds are clearly gray and it's overcast and horrible, or they're trying to add fake light through clouds that just look way too thick. Whatever the case might be, lean into the conditions that you got and just work with that. If the conditions were cloudy and overcast or even raining, lean into that. Make it moody. Maybe that's not your style. However, this is where you're getting your reps in. This is where you can practice shooting other styles and other ways that you might not usually work with all of the time. Now, keep in mind as well, you do not have to post these photos as long as you just understand and you're learning how to take and edit photos from and in bad conditions. So that's tip number one. Moving on to tip number two, and that is to stay out longer than you think it's worthwhile. Like in the photos from the other morning, some golden light came out and we just happened to be in the right position to take advantage of it. Now, we could have been in the wrong position or we could have already been halfway home. However, we decided to stay out and shoot as much as possible because we thought, hey, we're already an hour and 45 minutes invested into this trip, and maybe you're not always that long invested into a trip. We might as well stay around, find some kind of gems in the rough, and fortunately we got some golden light coming through while we were shooting some guys in like a weird garage mechanic kind of place, and yeah, we got blessed with 5 minutes of golden light. But staying out longer than you think is worthwhile can also lead to some pretty cool photos. I would say you always want to be pushing yourself to at least come home with one photo you're happy with. And maybe it's not going to be that wide, expansive landscape with a mountain in the distance. Maybe it's going to be a macro shot or a street portrait or a self-portrait of yourself. Whatever the case is, just always try and come home with one shot that you're proud of and you're happy with, and that you would possibly post on Instagram or put into a YouTube video or whatever the case. Just try and come home with something you're happy with. And finally, this one isn't always achievable, but just do your best to find the good light. Even if it's completely overcast and it's like a huge softbox is on your scene, there is still good light. You can still somewhat shoot on the shadow side, for example. You can still get really nice detail shots because everything is lit super evenly and well. You might just not have beautiful contrast and golden light hitting through some beautiful palm trees that are creating lovely, light rays everywhere. You might not be able to have that, but you'll still be able to find the good light somewhere. Now, this is a skill not many photographers have, and I personally think I'm still working on it. However, if you can always do your best to find the right light or the best light, let's say, in the worst of the worst conditions, then you are always going to be able to adapt your skills to whatever is thrown your way when you're out on a professional shoot or when you just really need to get results from a shoot. So having the skill up your sleeve can turn you into one hell of a good photographer. So keep that in mind. And guys, that is going to wrap up today's video. I hope you were able to take something interesting from this video and maybe a tip or two that you can introduce into your photography, or at least just the next time you go out to shoot. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you're new around here, a subscribe would mean the world, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.